Serving as Israel's ambassador to the United States may be one of the toughest jobs in diplomacy. Tonight, we honor two men who have succeeded by the only yardstick that counts. Thanks to their service, the vital relationship between America and Israel grew stronger and deeper. How did they do it? By drawing on a lifetime of scholarship.
The combination scholar and statesman is not so common. And you have two awardees who really personify the fact that it is possible to combine these two.
Itamar Rabinovich came to Washington at a time when leaders and their people dared to dream and hope. Already a renowned scholar of the Arab world, Rabinovich was chosen by Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin to lead Israel's negotiations with Syria. More than any expert in Israel, he understood what made Syria tick and what might just enable Jerusalem and Damascus to cross the finish line toward an historic peace agreement.
It's part of Itamar's genius that he has actually been able to go to the deepest scholarly depths and make them available to policymakers and thereby enrich their ability to deal with a horrendous problem like Syria.
Recognizing his savvy, insight, and brilliance, the Prime Minister soon appointed him Israel's emissary to the United States as well. In Washington, he worked closely with President Clinton and the U.S. peace team to strengthen U.S. Israel relations and to reach peace with Syria. The first succeeded, the second did not. When an assassin's bullet cut down Prime Minister Rabin, Ambassador Rabinovich played a critical role by ensuring that the horrors at home did not disrupt the partnership he had helped forge in Washington.
There's nothing more important, I think, for an ambassador in Washington for the people who you're dealing with to know that you speak for the Prime Minister and you speak to the Prime Minister. And so I think there's a lot to learn from Itamar and for his tenure in Washington.
Itamar Rabinovich was named president of Tel Aviv University, his longtime intellectual home, Israel's largest university, and a major international center of teaching and research. During his presidency and since, he has continued to enrich public debate in Israel and around the world with his knowledge and expertise via his books, articles, and public commentary. And through it all, he has been a close friend of the Washington Institute.
Itamar remained someone who was not just highly respected, but whose views mattered. So every Israeli prime minister would pay attention to what he had to say or would call on him. He was viewed as not just an expert on the Middle East, but he was also viewed as an expert on the United States, what affected the United States and U.S. policymaking in general, regardless of the administration.
As the founding president of the Israel Institute, he now leads an organization that reflects his lifetime commitments to the twin goals of scholarship and statesmanship.
Itamar Rabinovich came to understand, really more than most people ever will, the difficulty of Israel's position in the academy. That is, how little it is understood, how little scholarship there is about Israel. And so he decided, let's do something about it. And the Israel Institute is really his answer.
As scholar and diplomat, Ambassador Rabinovich forged a unique path in the history of U.S. Israel relations. He built on the close ties of his prime minister and the American president to bring Israel to the brink of peace. Michael Oren, scholar and diplomat, came to Washington at a very different time in the history of this relationship. The role of ambassador was a natural outgrowth of Oren's professional training and life experience.
Prime Minister Netanyahu looked at Michael as someone who could be not just his representative to an administration, but his representative to America.
Growing up in the United States, his encounters with anti-Semitism taught him the value of a Jewish national homeland. While still a teen, a meeting with Ambassador Yitzhak Rabin and a summer spent on a kibbutz solidified his decision to immigrate to Israel. After serving as a paratrooper in the IDF, he earned a doctorate from Princeton. His research earned him recognition as a brilliant historian. Author of the most comprehensive account of the Six-Day War and a magisterial history of America's connection with the Middle East, he drew wide acclaim as a fastidious researcher, engaging writer, and an even-handed arbiter of history.
Michael is a remarkable historian to begin with, and his books really, I think, are seen by not just scholars, but I think also policymakers want to read his books because of the insights that they're able to derive from them.
He was uniquely qualified to explain Israel's position as an IDF spokesperson during wars in Lebanon and Gaza. Thanks to his ability to articulate Israel's difficult situation in the Middle East, Prime Minister Netanyahu tapped him to play a larger role on the global stage as Israel's representative in Washington.
He was in Georgetown at the time, teaching, and the Prime Minister had sort of got wind of him and was thinking about appointing a new ambassador, and he wanted me to meet with him, see what I thought. Michael came across as he's not only a first-rate scholar, but he's a first-class mensch as well, and somebody who obviously when you meet him, you know that he can handle the rigors of the job and the pressures of the job, and to be able to advocate for Israel effectively in the public sphere.
In the best of times, managing this relationship is no simple task, and these weren't the best of times.
How in that situation do you keep the two governments from running off the rails away from each other? And how do you overcome political differences that people see in the newspaper and on TV every day, and reaffirm the more fundamental relationship between the U.S. and Israel? That is, I think, Michael's achievement during the years he was here.
Among the many challenges he confronted, Ambassador Oren was called upon to respond to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, a global effort to undermine Israel's credibility and call into question its right to exist. Ambassador Oren thrived in the fast-paced, contentious world of Washington politics and media. As a scholar, soldier, and diplomat, he brought unique skills to his role as ambassador. He impressed friends and foes alike, even Stephen Colbert.
I think there's room for both of us to share this homeland, Palestinians living in their homeland, Israelis living in their homeland, in a position of permanent and legitimate peace.
Thank you, sir. Ambassador Michael Oren, the Israeli ambassador to the United States. There is no greater friend of the state of Israel than this man.
For their commitment to scholarship and their exercise of statesmanship, the Washington Institute is proud to honor these exemplary champions of the U.S. Israel relationship, Ambassadors Itamar Rabinovich and Michael Oren.